Welcome to another episode of How'd We Gay Here. I'm your host, George Azar. Although the physical demonstration of pride became public after the Stonewall incident, one sector of the LGBTQ community was left out of the narrative for quite some time, literally still happening today, the transgender community. As discussed in the first part of this series, the Stonewall Inn sent a ripple effect throughout the world, highlighting and signifying a turning point in the treatment of gay and lesbian people for decades to come. It's worth noting that the Stonewall incident started with a drag queen by the name of Marsha P. Johnson. More on that badass revolutionary person later. However, little was known about another riot that had happened 3 years before the Stonewall incident, the Compton Cafeteria riot. The Compton Cafe was a refuge for the transgender community and drag queens. Being ostracized from the gay community, predominantly in the Castro district, by cisgender white gay men, transgender people gathered in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco to find a refuge for their harassment. As police continued their routine interrogations and incarcerations of LGBTQ people, the transgender community revolted by picking a battle with the police officers the night they infiltrated the Compton Cafeteria. It all started with a cup of coffee being thrown in the face of a police officer. Ensued a chaotic riot that became a turning point for the trans resistance to their relentless torture and inequality. The occurrence of this event would have gone unnoticed had it not been for transgender historian Dr. Susan Stryker. While weeding through the Gay and Lesbian Historical Society archives in 1991, they came across an article that mentioned the incident, with no identifying information. From that point on, Dr. Stryker made it their mission to investigate the event. Years later, they pieced together this monumental event and how the Tenderloin district had become known as Trans Central. Although shocking, it is not surprising that little information was made available. Transgender people have been constantly marginalized from the process of equity and equality, not exclusively to religious and secular society. As prominent as the gay and lesbian rights movements have been, decades have shown consistent mistreatment of the most marginalized groups that make up the LGBTQ community, the transgender community. We are going to cover some important events and details about the history of mistreatment of the transgender community in upcoming series, but it's worth noting that if we as gay people do not come to terms with our unfortunate complex history, we are doomed to repeat history while our siblings in the fight towards equity are thrown under the bus. Take, for instance, the current attack on transgender children, or the Trump administration's attack on transgender service members. We must be clear-eyed about our past and persistent that we do not repeat neglectful, short-sighted liberty.